Hi, I'm Neil from Live Room Audio, and I'm here to give you a walkthrough of Constructivist, Live Room Audio's first ever VST plugin. Hey, so this is Constructivist. I've inserted it here on some guitars. You can hear at the moment, it's not doing anything at all. So let's do a little walkthrough of the modules. The first one you see is the Match EQ. So how the Match EQ works is it listens to a reference tone that you can either drag and drop here, or you can select a reference tone from the drop-down library here. So we have guitar. Let's take a look at the guitar references. And if you want to hear them, you select the headphone icon, press play. You can adjust the volume here. For example, if we like the low-end rhythm guitar here, we can then put the Match EQ in the learn cycle and hit play. Quite often, the curves are not necessarily what you would go to instinctively. What the Match EQ is looking to do is move energy around the frequency spectrum to try and get it closer to that reference. It sounds better than it looks, and that's one of the beautiful things about Match EQ's algorithm. It's not worried about what your EQ looks like, it's just moving energy around the frequency spectrum to get a result closer to your reference and give you a launch pad, a starting point. You can dial that back with the Q slider here. What that does is it smooths out the curve and makes any boosts and cuts slightly less aggressive. You can also right click and disable any of the bands you want to. So it gives us a start point. So the next module is Sheen. Sheen is a multiprocessor. It's got two different modes, this one here and this one here. Just select them by clicking the LED. In the first mode, it features a combination of console style saturation, VCA compression, and it's got a degree of pre-emphasis, so it's adding a little bit of a shape to the signal. It tends to add a little bit of air, a little bit of excitement. In the second mode, it adds more harmonic aggression. It can sound quite fizzy on broadband sources like guitars, and it's a bit more of an aggressive upper mid-range pre-emphasis. So let's take a listen. So around here, around 80%, you'll start hearing that compression really kick in. So on max, it feels more scooped, it feels squashier, it feels a bit more saturated. So let's take a look at the next stage, which is process. It's an additional EQ stage. Each of these is a different filter set, which works particularly well for different incoming signals. So mode 1 is particularly good for snare drums. It adds excitement at the top end, adds weight at the bottom end, and does some mid-range shaping. Mode 2 is particularly good for mid-range heavy sound sources, like guitars, for example. Mode 3 is particularly good for low-end energy sources, such as kick drum and bass guitar. It will shape those, it'll add contouring, and it'll add a sense of clarity to those sources. Finally, the fourth mode is more of a broad scope enhancement. Think of it a bit like a modern interpretation of that classic smiley face. It's adding shelving EQ at the bottom and the top, and it's adding some mid-range clarity. I'll demonstrate each one on this source. My first choice would be mode 2 for guitars. You can really get a sense of increased clarity, better mid-range focus, bit of extra weight to the low end. If I put it into mode 3, this is for kick drums and bass guitars. However, mode 4 might be interesting. As described, it's a subtle broadband enhancement one. Mode 1, which is great for snare drums, is actually pretty good for a lot of things. Maybe at lower settings it'd work for guitar, much more modern sounding. Punch is a compressor with two different circuits. The first mode, it's got a slightly slower attack, it's got fast release, it's pretty good for catching transients, particularly works well for drums. Mode 2, it's got a faster attack, it's more usable for controlling broader band sources like guitars or your full mix. It's going to catch transients a bit quicker. It still has a fast release. The next module is drive. So drive is probably the most obvious one. It's a saturation module. It adds a lot of color. This is probably the most aggressive module. At that point, it's adding too much. So let's dial that back. Obviously guitars are distorted already, we don't need to worry too much about it, but it does a nice bit of shaping. We also have a high pass filter here, and then we've got this bipolar envelope control. So if you dial it anti-clockwise, it's going to enhance transients and push sustain elements and bleed further back in the mix. If you dial it in a clockwise way, it does inverse. It brings out the tail of a sound source and adds a sense of depth. Our final controls are the utility bar at the bottom. We've got a mix knob for blending dry and wet signal. In the testing phase, we found that it can be really useful in the mix to exaggerate, to hype it up a lot and blend in, rather than just like a straight insert. You can use it as this kind of parallel processor. It can be really, really exciting. We've got a gate, pretty simple, traditional threshold model. It's going to have a maximum reduction of 6 to 10 decibels. You also have auto gain and trim. So I'm just going to hype this up a bit more and demonstrate that kind of blending in technique. So this kind of aligns with the LRA philosophy of trying to find a Goldilocks zone in our processing. And that's what we're trying to do with Constructivist as well. Find a way to create a really usable, colourful, creative tool that helps the mixer, helps the creator get somewhere musical, hi-fi and exciting quickly.